Well, the big news of the weekend is that Elon Musk has now announced that he is pulling out of his Twitter deal. According to the Wall Street Journal, his showdown with Twitter has set the stage for what could become one of the most unusual courtroom battles in corporate takeover history, a spurned acquisition target that never sought to be bought, potentially trying to force the buyer who soured on the deal to see it through. In just over 3 months, Musk aggressively pursued a takeover of Twitter that first Twitter resisted, and then he prevailed, and then he reneged, all the while using the very platform to ridicule Twitter and its leaders and drop hints about his shifting intentions. With Musk's attempt to terminate his $44 billion takeover, Twitter says it plans legal action. In a statement on Friday, it indicated it will file a lawsuit in the Delaware Court of Chancery arguing that Musk has to close the agreed-upon deal. Basically, in order for Musk to show that the deal cannot close, he has to now demonstrate that there was some sort of materially adverse circumstance that prevented him from closing the deal, namely that Twitter lied to him in its materials, for example. Friday evening, he filed papers saying he wanted out, taking aim at Twitter on several fronts, saying the company violated their merger agreement. He accused Twitter of withholding data from him to verify facts about the business, and that its statements on the amount of spam on the platform represent material misstatements to regulators. He also argued the company was making critical changes to the ordinary running of the business without his consent, such as imposing a hiring freeze and layoffs. So basically, he said he was going to buy the company. On the basis of that, they started making changes. And then he said, I don't like the changes that you're making based on me saying I'm going to buy the company. I'm out. And also, you guys keep saying that there's only a certain amount of spam on the platform. I say there's way more spam on the platform than you're letting on. The problem is it's very difficult for Twitter to actually know how much spam is on the platform because there's some accounts that look like bots that aren't bots. There's some accounts that are bots but are actually owned by major corporations, for example. Corporate law experts say Twitter appears to be on sounder legal footing than Musk, according to the Wall Street Journal. The filing didn't provide evidence to back up his assertion that the estimate was inaccurate or an alternate calculation. This isn't even in the ballpark, said Zohar Goshen, professor of transactional law at Columbia Law School, adding the impact on a company's value needs to be so dramatic, its value would have to be halved, for example. Layoffs and hiring freezes at tech companies in recent weeks have also become commonplace. Facebook has cut back. Tesla is also trimming staff. The question remains whether it's really possible to force the eccentric billionaire to buy a company he doesn't even want to own. Goshen says, what are they going to do if there's a judgment? And he says, well, I'm still not going to do it. They don't have the tools to force him to go through with it. You can't put people in jail because they don't buy something, which is true. There have been a few examples of buyers being forced to follow through with purchases under specific performance clauses that Musk agreed to. Most were really small deals. Never has the concept of a court forcing a buyer to complete a deal been tested on a large scale like this. Most legal clashes over sour deals end in settlements involving a price cut or a one-time payment. Musk did agree to pay a $1 billion reverse termination fee to Twitter if the deal fell apart, triggered under certain scenarios, including if his debt financing falls through or if regulators try to block the deal. Neither has occurred, and they're bringing in all of the big legal guns. Twitter brought in Wachtell, Lipton, Rosen, and Katz, which is a massive New York-based law firm. Musk is using Skadden Arps, another massive, I believe, New York-based law firm. Twitter's already been working with Simpson, Thatcher, and Bartlett, and Wilson Sonsini. Musk's team includes Quinn Emanuel, Urquhart, and Sullivan, which is a California-based law firm. These are major legal players, by the way. The agreement caps at $1 billion the amount Twitter could sue for damages. So either they can force him to buy the whole company and sue for that, which again can be very hard to pry $44 billion out of somebody's pocket, or $1 billion to basically make him go away. The standoff leaves Twitter in a precarious position, given that its prospects as a standalone company are daunting because of the digital advertising market in upheaval. The biggest problem for Twitter is that Twitter is a giant aggregation of data machine, but it doesn't actually earn a profit. In fact, according to the Dow Jones Industrial Average, right now, Twitter's price earnings ratio is something like 160. To put that in perspective, what that means is that its earnings on a yearly basis, the price of the company, like the market cap of the company, is now 160 times the earnings of the company on a yearly basis. The normal company on the New York Stock Exchange is somewhere between 20 and 25. I mean, like on an annualized basis, that means that Twitter is maybe earning less money on an annualized basis than my company. Okay, my company ain't worth $44 billion. Musk offered $54.20 a share price originally. Twitter shares closed down at $36.81 on Friday. Okay, and right now, again, the Twitter price is dropping precipitously. Over the weekend, prior to the opening of the market, it was already down 5%. I think it's going to drop significantly further than that, because the simple fact of the matter is that everybody was sort of counting on Musk coming in, revamping the platform, figuring out ways to monetize the platform. So this raises the question of what exactly Musk thought he was doing. Elon Musk is owning Twitter by not owning Twitter. But here is the thing. Twitter owns you because they have all your data. The sad thing is most of us have very little choice because when it comes to big tech, they basically grab all of your data, they aggregate it, they resell it. And this is true also of your ISP. Your ISP operates like a monopoly in the region that serves you. Then they use that monopoly power to take advantage of customers. Worst of all, many ISPs log your internet activity, sell that data on to other big tech companies or advertisers. To prevent ISPs and other big tech companies from seeing my internet activity, I protect all my devices with ExpressVPN. So, you ask, what is ExpressVPN? I'm so glad you asked. It's a simple app for your computer or smartphone that encrypts all your network data and tunnels it through a secure VPN server so your ISP can't see any of your activity. Just think about how much of your life is on the internet. Sadly, every site you visit, video you watch, or message you send gets tracked by ISPs or other tech giants who can then sell your information for a profit. That is the reason I recommend ExpressVPN as the best way to hide your online activity from your ISP. And here's the thing, folks, ExpressVPN is super easy to use. So I open up my ExpressVPN app. Right now, sadly, it says that it is not connected. But behold, hit the button. Magically, it's connected, which means I am protected. ExpressVPN does all of that without slowing your connection, which is why it's rated #1 by TechRadar, The Verge, and countless others. So, stop handing over your personal data to ISPs and the other big tech giants who mine your activity and sell off your info. Protect yourself with the VPN I trust to keep me private online. Visit expressvpn.com/Ben Shapiro Show to get 3 extra months for free. That's expressvpn.com/Ben Shapiro Show. Now, there is a going theory out there that is pretty clever if this is what Musk was actually doing. So, Musk obviously is the biggest shareholder in Tesla, right? It's the company that he started, the major automobile company that has such a backlog that I've ordered a Tesla like a year ago and it still hasn't arrived. I mean, that's how bad the backlog is over at Tesla. There's a theory that's been put out there by Josh Wolf, the co-founder at Lux Capital. His suggestion is that Musk actually wanted to liquidate a bunch of his Tesla stock. He wanted to use that money for other things. But the big problem is that if you own a lot of stock in a company where you are the co-founder and you sell a lot of that stock, the stock price absolutely tanks. There's been a problem for a very long time for people who own stock in major companies. This is why whenever people say things like Mark Zuckerberg is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Well, I mean, he is and he isn't. He's worth that. If you took his stock times the price of the stock, right? If you take his stock holdings times the price of the stock, that would be what he is worth. But that neglects the fact that if he were to sell all that stock at one time, for example, he wouldn't be able to get that price. The same thing is true of Jeff Bezos. The minute you start liquidating stock in your own company, the stock price of the company drops. Just a simple fact. In fact, when Zuckerberg liquidated like $1 billion worth of stock 5-6 years ago, it tanked the price of the stock of Facebook in a serious way. And he had to actually explain why he was doing it, that he wasn't losing faith in his company and all the rest. Well, Musk apparently wanted to sell some $8.5 billion of Tesla stock, but he didn't want to tank the stock price. So how do you do that? If you're the co-founder of a company and you're the voice of the company and the face of the company, and you just going on Joe Rogan and smoking pot tanks the stock by a significant percentage, how exactly do you liquidate $8.5 billion worth of stock without tanking the price of the stock overall and people losing faith in the company? Well, one way you do that is you say, listen, guys, it's not that I'm losing faith in Tesla. It's that I want to take some of my profits from Tesla and I want to use those to buy another company over here. So it's not that I haven't lost faith in Tesla. I'm just trying to save the world by buying Twitter. And so everybody is distracted by this hand, and they're neglecting the fact that you actually just liquidated $8.5 billion worth of stock over here with regard to Tesla. And let's say that you even have to pay the $1 billion fee in order to get out of the Twitter deal. Now, let's say you pay that fee. Well, now you get to take that as a loss, as a capital loss on your taxes. So really, you only lose about $600 million in order to liquidate, say, $8.5 billion of Tesla stock. So if that's what he was doing, then that is indeed it's a very clever move, because if you look at the price of the Tesla stock, the price of the Tesla stock has been dropping, but the Tesla stock price hasn't been dropping because he sold it. I mean, the simple fact of the matter is, I'm looking right now at the price of Tesla over the last 6 months. It basically started to tank back in May, like early May, and it's kind of holding steady since then. It's basically been steady, and that's despite the fact that he's liquidated all of this stock. So if he was trying to get out of that stock, wanted to make a profit on that stock, but he didn't want the entire stock price to tank, he had to have an excuse. So he just says, listen, I need the money in order to buy Tesla, in order to buy Twitter. It's not that I have lost faith here. It's that I really, really want to buy this company over here. And then if later he has to get out of that Twitter deal, then he can. Josh Wolf says the entire thing was a clever ruse to sell and liquidate $8.5 billion of Tesla stock with a plausible excuse for doing it. 80% odds, Elon pays $1 billion breakup fee, walks away with $7.5 billion liquidated, 20% spends $100 million fighting litigation. You honestly think he can land rockets, but he can't fix bots? Right? Because that's his claim. His claim is that the bots problem on Twitter is so bad that he can't fix it at the current price. Now, the other reality, of course, is that Twitter stock price has been in free fall basically since the moment that Elon Musk announced that he was going to buy it. And if you look at the 1-year Twitter stock price, if you go back to about June of 2021, you're looking at a Twitter stock price of $70. And now you see, after he announced that he was going to buy it, it spiked up to about $50. But that is because he said he was going to buy it for $54. and it stuck around in that area. And then as the deal started to look like it was going to collapse, now the Twitter stock price is down in the mid 30s. So he's paying almost a 50% surcharge for that piece of real estate. Like that seems really dumb. Like just on a pure business level, paying $44 billion for a company that's worth maybe $28, $27 billion on today's market is something that he is not going to want to do anyway. The battle for the culture is heating up. We here at the Daily Wire are making some big moves. So be sure to like, subscribe, ring that bell, because you're not going to want to miss a single moment.